Building a legacy with gold and silver is very easy to do. You will have a lifetime of savings in gold and silver if you just stack and hoard it. But what happens to that legacy when you're gone? Will you hand it down to future generations? Will somebody have the same passion as you when it comes to gold and silver? Will they have the same ethos and outlook on the world? It's a difficult one to know the exact answer to. Now, for me, I am building a legacy collection of sovereigns, something to preserve a bit of history. I am a collector at heart, and this really is special to me. Will it be special to future generations of the Backyard Bullion household? I don't know, and navigating that difficult task of handing down your gold and silver to those future generations is what we're going to focus in today's Precious Metal Ramble. Hello everybody, Backyard Bullion here, and a very warm welcome to you all joining me for another Precious Metal Ramble where we have down-to-earth discussions about all things precious and shiny. We've got here a very precious and shiny box of sovereigns, my attempt at a date run of sovereigns. Whether or not I will ever complete this date run, I don't know, and quite frankly I'm not that bothered whether or not I do, but what I am trying to do with this box of beautiful coins is build a legacy. Now, legacy is something that I want to touch on in this video, but in relation to your future generations, your kids, or your family that you might be handing your gold and silver down to. You don't have to have kids for this to be a problem and a factor. If you're stacking and you've got a whole bunch of gold and silver, it's quite a lonely affair sometimes. You don't want to go and tell every man and his dog about your gold coin collection or the stacking of silver bars that you've done over your lifespan. But at the same time, you'll want those people who might be getting the gold and silver, if you kick that proverbial bucket or whatever your plans might be down the line, to know something about it. Now, I'm going to share some of my thoughts, hints, tips, tricks, and opinions, I suppose, on this as it relates to me and my circumstances as a parent as well. But I'm not here to give parenting advice. It's such a unique and different thing for every single person to have a think about what is right for them in their circumstances. And it would be great to hear what you've got to say down in the comment section below. And don't forget, if you're enjoying our little Precious Metal Rambles, to hit the thumbs up button and to share your thoughts by subscribing. I've kind of got my intro a bit messed up there. If you're not subscribed, subscribe already, because we're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. So, legacy and telling friends, family, kids about your gold and silver, is it something that you should do? Now, as a parent of young children, I do have concerns about telling them and showing them all about my gold and silver, because they don't know any better, and they might just go and tell all of their friends at school, oh, my daddy's got all of these gold coins and, you know, X, Y, and Z. And that's not a good thing. That's a recipe for disaster for sure. So there is an element of keep it secret, keep it safe, like in The Lord of the Rings. You don't want your kids to really know about that. But at some point in every parenting life cycle, there will come a time when you start to talk to them about money. And I read an article the other day, I can't remember, I read it or heard something basically where they're saying that kids start to form lasting relationships with money and finances from a really young age, from 5, 6, 7 years old. And I know our little one, who's got a little piggy bank with some coins in there, he doesn't necessarily fully grasp the concept of money in that sense, but he knows that that little coin jar is what sometimes we will use to go to the charity shop and buy him a toy. What we try and do is one in, one out. We take a charity shop, he donates it, and then he gets to buy a new one with the proceeds of his little pocket money jar. And it's only a few pounds here and there. But at some point, that of course is going to change, and young kids become younger teens, and they will need to go out and spend some of their hard-earned money on, well, I say hard-earned money, you know, if they do their chores and various different things. So you've got to kind of think about where your education as a parent is going to be, and that can be quite a difficult one. Now, from my perspective, I kind of feel like I just want to keep it completely secret and do the educating on the world of money and gold and silver. Gold and silver maybe in a sort of looser term over a different lifespan of my own personal journey with precious metals. Now that comes as a compounded extra issue because of course I do YouTube and I have a YouTube channel. Now I won't be doing YouTube for my entire life, and certainly when there comes a point that I feel is right, I'll probably just sidle off into insignificance and not do my channel anymore. But maybe my kids would find my YouTube channel. You know what kids are like, and they're very resourceful. Apologies about the focusing on this. I tell you what, let's zoom in a little bit, and then we might be able to get better focusing on these coins as we go. So it's, I think, a really interesting one if you're on social media and you're doing this as a job, or if your job is what I do. I don't really like telling people what my inverted commas job is. So when I always get asked by people, what do you do for a living? It's such a phrase that is so used it's like defines you almost on what you do these days. I always say I'm self-employed, I work from home, and most of the time people will just go, oh, that's really good, and they might follow up going, oh, well, what do you do as a self-employed person? And then I just make up a sort of bit of a white lie about my old career basically, and how I'm continuing on with that, and that's how it is. So the kids don't really know what I do for a living. They know, and they've seen my office and my workroom, and they've seen me packaging things, and they've seen things, and I suppose at some point they will see these things and know what it is. But I also kind of feel like in the time frame that they might become self-aware of these things, that I will have maybe stopped doing what I'm doing and moved on to the next great adventure in my life. So that's definitely a factor and a concern for me as a parent. And it's more of a security concern, I guess, from that young early age. But there is also an element of indoctrination. Now, this is going to be a bit contentious for maybe some parents out there, because of course everybody has their own right to talk with their kids about money and finances and taxes and all of these kinds of things. But as I said, kids form their opinions on the world from a really young age. And if you're just throwing one agenda at kids all over and over again, they will form biases, they will form those opinions. And it's, I think for me, quite important for kids to be able to form, let's have a look at something, we've got young head sovereigns here, there we go. It's quite important for me for kids to be able to form their own interpretations of the world around them, certainly as a parent. But we do obviously need to guide, and we do need to mentor in this crazy world. So there's definitely going to be elements from my perspective that they will need to know about this and make smart choices about savings and money and mortgages and loans and interest and how to save responsibly. And gold and silver is definitely a factor in that. And of course, social media being a player as well, they might end up going down the silver and gold rabbit hole that I have gone down. So I think there's a lot of really interesting elements to factor in there. Now, will I, as Backyard Bullion, hand over my business to my kids? I don't think I will. I would prefer my kids to stand on their own 2 feet and find something that works for them and find something that they can build. The fact that I've been able to build a business from social media and do all of this, I think, is quite fascinating from my point of view. And it's something that I really have enjoyed doing over this last 10 years. And it's something that's made me into a better person. But I've made mistakes along the way. I've made mistakes in business. I've made mistakes in my own professional career. And you only learn from those by falling down and then picking yourself up again. So I do think it's important for kids to really kind of get to grips on their own, basically, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But it is important to talk to them. Now, let's say we move past the kids stage, the awkward kids stage, and they get to their sort of young adult or late teens, and perhaps you're thinking, well, there you can say, keep it secret, keep it safe, and they've got a vested interest to not go and blab their mouths around to all their friends about the gold and silver that daddy and mummy have got locked away in a safe deposit box. But again, there is also an element of not wanting your kids to feel that they've got something coming to them, something that's going to be inherited by them. And from my perspective, from an inheritance point of view, there are issues around this. So the beautiful thing about sovereigns is, of course, they're capital gains tax exempt, but they're not inheritance tax exempt. So if I was to kick that proverbial bucket, then the value of these sovereigns, it's really struggling to focus on these with these capsules, but there we go. The inheritance tax value of these coins will be factored into our estate. So you might want to think about doing some estate planning and gifting these coins to your kids. Now, you can gift the coins to your kids, inverted commas, you can gift them, but keep them, I suppose, locked away so the kids can't get them. But in name, it's gone to them. But you've got to be careful with that kind of thing, because possession is 9/10 of the law. And if you're storing your own stuff on site for your kids, but there's no record of that gifting ever really taking place, then you might fall a bit foul of the old inheritance tax man when the time comes. So there's so many different factors to think about, so many different things to, I suppose, concern oneself with when it comes to inheritance tax planning. And I'm not a tax advisor. I'm not here to tell you what you should do from an inheritance tax point of view. But I would like to think that there would come a point where I'd be able to tell the future generations of the Backyard Bullion household a little bit more about the things that I'm passionate about. And that's one thing that I think is really important as a parent, to share things that you're passionate about. Now, I got into coins because of my grandfather. My grandfather traveled the world and he had a whole host of just random coins in a big box. And I got that box from him when I was, about 8 years old, I think. And I just remember playing with these coins. I mean, there were square coins, coins with holes in, round coins. There were coins with very cool designs from all around the world. It was just a smorgasbord of amazement for me, and it got my passions going for coins. And I always loved coins. I used to make up stories about the coins' journeys in life, where they'd been and whose pocket they'd been in, basically. And I love to think about that history still when it comes to old coins. I mean, gosh, have a think about this 1817 sovereign that we've got over here. This is from an X mount. It's not anything super special when it comes to numismatic value. If it ever focuses on, there we go, there we go. It's nothing super special, but it's got that legacy, that history to it. And I am a big history buff, and I love that about coins. And I love to be able to instill that love of history, love of storytelling and story making for my own kids. And how you do that without showing them a whole bunch of shiny gold, I think, is difficult. And, there is a pride element here as well, because I'm super, super proud of the fact that I've been able to work hard for my professional career, build a brand, build a channel, build the ability to save money within precious metals, build knowledge enough to know what I'm buying here and the kind of things that I'm buying, shield heads, mint marks, older coins here. They're all really quite special, and I'm very proud of that. But I can't just go and tell everybody about it. Now I hide online and do it through the anonymity of my YouTube channel, and that's wonderful and lovely to do. But it's a bit disconnected. And whilst I love you all fantastically in the YouTube comment section and channel, it's not the same as being able to get this box out and talk with somebody about the different mint marks, about the different histories of the mint marks, and why there are different mints that made coins all around the world, and the different designs and types and mintages. It's not possible to do that with the passion that I would love. And maybe that's something that I could get for my kids at some point. But all of the aforementioned pitfalls that come with it, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking this, and maybe part of you you don't want to spoil your kids, because that word spoil is really interesting. And I've had friends say, they spoil their kids. And I thought, I don't know, I've never liked that phrase, because the word spoil, you're literally spoiling your kids. You're making things for them that are not good, really, in many ways. And if I was just to give my kids a whole bunch of gold and silver, say on their 18th birthday, I do have worries that perhaps they would just, for want of a better phrase, piss it up the wall, sell it, buy a fast car, get themselves in trouble, do other things with the money that they might not know responsibly how to do. And this stuff is about legacy. This stuff is about preserving history for me. This is a passion for me. It's an investment. Yes, there's definitely monetary gain on the price of the sovereigns and the gold in here. As I said, there are some nice coins in here. There are some shield-backed sovereigns, but they're just bullion grade. They're nothing special. Some of these older coins here, they're hard to come by, but they're not numismatic examples. And I don't plan on buying £10,000 sovereigns, or the 1819 sovereign. There's only like 9 of them in existence, and they go for about £500,000 a coin. So I'll never complete my date run, but I can still enjoy this, and I can still preserve a bit of history. And I like to think that one day, whether or not my kids want it, and I'm starting to ramble, I know, it's what I do best, but here's another thing. So if the kids inherit this kind of thing, then they might not be passionate about coins. They might just think, well, there's, gosh, I haven't done the maths here, but if this box was full, I think there's 100 coins in here. There's 100 sovereigns in here. That's a lot of money. And they might want to use that money. They might just cash the sovereigns in. They might just take some of these down to a local bullion dealer. And, you don't want to cash in your 1832 and your 1826 for spot price. Those are more than spot price coins. Same with the shield backs and things. So, it is difficult really to feel where the right land would be. And also, it's complicated enough right now, I know, but from a money laundering perspective, anti-money laundering regulation perspective, if suddenly your kids rock up to a bullion dealer with 60 grand's worth of sovereigns and cash them in and get that money in the bank, and then they try and use that money to get a mortgage as a deposit, there's going to be questions on where that money's come from and how it's been acquired. And if you've just underhandedly given your kids these and you've popped your clogs and they haven't paid the right tax on it, inheritance tax wise, then yeah, your kids are going to get in trouble, and you don't want that as a parent. Certainly I don't anyway. So it's a really difficult one. And I don't know if I've quite fully decided on where I'll be. Fortunately, I feel like I've got quite a number of years ahead of me before I really have to worry about these things. But as young kids start to get older and be more aware about the world and turn into real people, it is a concern. And I know that there will be a lot of parents out there that will feel the same way as me. But equally, I do think that there are a lot of parents out there who maybe will just start really young, and that puts some security questions in perspective. Now, I mean, this is all out of the safe deposit box. This is going back in the safe deposit box this afternoon. And, you know, there's an element of security there from that perspective. But still, you don't want your young kids going to primary school going, my daddy's got all of these coins. Because you never know who's listening and who might say something to their daddies. And that daddy says something to somebody else, and then it gets around. You just never know. So there we go. Big old ramble today. I hope that has provided some interesting insights for you in your situations, wherever you might be in life, wherever you might be thinking about your gold and silver collection going. I do think it's an interesting one. Big old ramble today. What are we at? 17 minutes, crikey. Right, well, I guess we better wrap this up. Now, for you Cool Kids Club, there is no better coin for you to quote me than the quintessential 1817. So quote me 1817 down in the comment section, and I will know that you are super, super cool. And by the way, if you're wondering where I got the vast majority of these coins from, the Silver Forum and the Gold Forum. So if you are watching to the end of the video, go and check out the links in the description box below. You can get on there and you can start hunting for some of the best value gold coins out there. I've bought the vast majority of these at bullion value. You know, there's a small premium on things like shields and young heads, and of course a bit more of a premium on some of the older stuff, but it's just so easy to buy on those platforms. So best place to be. Anyway, that's it from me. We'll see you guys on the next video. As always, please make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.